Well, he's finally done it. Brandon Aiyuk firmly signaled this morning that his NFL career is over. Part two of this Instagram post said, I will not be reinstating with them nor doing any kind of business with them. Problem for Brandon Aiyuk is if he does indeed want to get back into the NFL to play for the Commanders or whoever else, he actually does have to file for reinstatement. But he straight up has said that he's not going to file for reinstatement. Part one of his Instagram post looked like this, and Brandon Aiyuk lied again. He said that the team continued to lie to the media and fan base, acting as if the voiding of his guarantees was not a decision that was made in July. However, we have video evidence that directly contradicts what Brandon Aiyuk is trying to say here. Here's Kyle Shanahan speaking the day after the media report came out regarding Brandon Aiyuk's voided guarantees.
There was a number of things from July that, to me, is more of a business side, dealing with lawyers and stuff and contracts. And I know everyone got a lot of information yesterday. That was information that I found out in July and kind of dealt with it then. And to me, the contract stuff and guarantees and things like that is really, it's irrelevant to my relationship with the player and my relationship with our team and what we're trying to do this year. I know I went through that stuff and talked to him a lot about it back in July. But since July, it's been all about this season and hoping he would get healthy, and he's been working to get healthy, and I've been waiting for him to come back when he's healthy.
So yes, Shanahan says very clearly that this all went down in July. This is the second blatant lie in about 2 weeks from Brandon Aiyuk regarding contractual business.
I terminated my SRA with my previous agent through the NFLPA last year in November.
But then when people dug deeper into it, no such formal notice had actually been filed. So Aiyuk was blatantly lying. Here again, we have video evidence that he is blatantly lying. Aiyuk in his post goes on to say that GPS evidence shows that he was actually running faster than he did before injury at the time that the 49ers voided his guarantees. However, no matter what Brandon Aiyuk says, we can't escape the fact that he declined to file an appeal after the 49ers voided his guarantees. So this is like the guy outside the bar who's trying to fight someone, but he's only trying to fight someone when he's being held back by 3 bouncers, when he doesn't actually have a chance to go throw a punch. So Brandon Aiyuk is yelling. Brandon Aiyuk is causing all of this uproar, but he doesn't actually have the guts to take the actions that would back up those words. Again, if he actually wanted to play again, Brandon Aiyuk would file for reinstatement and he would demonstrate physical readiness to play. He has done neither of those two things, and he just came out and firmly said that he does not plan to do the first thing, file for reinstatement, which is massively, massively necessary. Actions speak louder than words, especially when those words are not truthful. It's crazy to me because we can go back now and see all these contradictory posts. And of course, you know, we've already outlined the contradictions that Aiyuk has made in just the past month, but go back 10 months. This is after, about 2 months after the 49ers voided Brandon Aiyuk's guarantees. Aiyuk posted about his quote unquote good friend, John Lynch, and he called John Lynch a real stand-up guy. Now Aiyuk is acting like he's been at terrible odds with the 49ers ever since the voiding of guarantees, but he was calling John Lynch a good friend and a real stand-up guy 2 months after that. He was running on the 49ers practice field. He was in the game against the Raiders, the preseason game, and that happened right around the time of the post that I just showed you. Brandon Aiyuk was running routes about an hour and a half or 2 hours before game time, catching some passes from Brock Purdy. He obviously, well, not on terrible terms with the 49ers then. Clearly something happened after that. We don't know exactly what, but Brandon Aiyuk did ultimately leave the facility, was placed on the left squad list, but the voiding of the guarantees was not some hugely controversial thing from his perspective at the time that it happened a year ago in July. Aiyuk today said that it is a year to the date since those guarantees were voided, but he still was a very active participant in and around the 49ers building after that happened. And what he put out today only makes him look worse because of the lies that I mentioned, but also because he straight up said that he refused to play for the 49ers last year when his teammates needed him. Yeah, they could have used an X wide receiver last year, but Brandon Aiyuk straight up said that he wasn't willing to live up to his end of the contract and provide those services. In fact, two concrete courses of action were broadcast by Brandon Aiyuk today. That he refused to play for the 49ers in 2025 and that he's going to refuse to apply for reinstatement here in 2026. The end result of both of those actions is not seeing the football field. So everything that Brandon Aiyuk has done or decided not to do has pointed in the direction of him never playing again. Unless he actually changes course of those actions, he is not going to play again. And everything else just seems like a desperate cry for attention on his way out of the league. I frequently go back to this post. This was about a year ago as well, where Brandon Aiyuk acknowledged that he was on Percocets and muscle relaxers, having to pee in a cup by his bed because he couldn't walk for 10 weeks. So obviously he was on pain-killing pills after the knee injury happened. He openly acknowledged that. And in this post, you can see that he's acknowledging the severity of his knee injury. Although in later months, we have a statement from George Kittle saying that he got back up to 22 miles per hour, impressive GPS speed. We have a statement from Brandon Aiyuk saying that he was running faster than he ever was before. We've seen Brandon Aiyuk on the field. It did seem that he was moving fairly well last year. It is still fair to wonder about the long-term effects of that knee injury, especially when you go back to this post a year ago from Brandon Aiyuk. Still, though, it's tough to firmly pinpoint where things completely went south because we did see him back at the 49ers facility after this post. We did see him call John Lynch his good friend after this post. We saw him running out on the field after this. I mean, I even remember the 49ers assistant coaches last offseason talking about how good Aiyuk was in the meeting room for the 49ers. So I think it's clear based on the evidence in front of us that there was a massive behavioral change from Brandon Aiyuk at some point during last fall that probably preceded or coincided with him leaving the facility, ghosting the 49ers, and being placed on the left squad list. Then he was conspicuously silent for several months, and we started hearing from Brandon Aiyuk again about a month ago, as soon as June 1st passed. The 49ers never had any reason to release Brandon Aiyuk after June 1st. If they wanted to release him, they could have done so in March, in April, in May, and just applied a post-June 1st designation and enjoyed the same benefits from it. But maybe Aiyuk was mistaken. Maybe he thought that a release was coming when it really wasn't. I think, though, that the more and most likely explanation, based on all the actions that we've seen from Brandon Aiyuk, is that for whatever reason, he's not planning to play again, and he is now throwing a fit on his way out. Aiyuk is already laying the groundwork for an excuse. When he doesn't end up playing this season, it looks like he is going to blame the 49ers. That's what today's post tells us if we're reading in between the lines. Now, the 49ers right now, they don't have to do anything until Brandon Aiyuk files for reinstatement. But it doesn't appear that he ever will. I mean, he straight up said that he's not going to file for reinstatement. The 49ers currently are enjoying the proration of Brandon Aiyuk's contract, money that they've already paid him through the signing bonus, through the 2025 option bonus, $48.1 million in total over those 2 years. But the bonus money that's been prorated over the course of 5 years remains prorated over the course of 5 years, stiff-armed into the future for salary cap purposes, which means that San Francisco takes a smaller cap hit now in terms of dead money from Aiyuk because he remains under contract. He's not part of the roster, the active roster, but he's on that left squad list, and the 49ers still get the salary cap benefit of the proration. That all accelerates the hit now if the 49ers do release Aiyuk. So unless he actively forces the 49ers to release him, they continue to benefit from this proration. I think the chances of trading him obviously long ago went out the window. Any media talking about the 49ers holding out for a trade? No, they're not holding out for a trade. They're holding out for this proration because there is no cost for them to do that. Also, the more that Brandon Aiyuk posts, the stronger the 49ers' potential argument for a recoupment of salary becomes. Because the 49ers can very easily argue that every single one of these outbursts from Brandon Aiyuk is conduct detrimental to the team, especially when he's literally wearing Washington Commanders gear during some of his video posts while he's still under contract with the San Francisco 49ers. Aiyuk was placed on the left squad list in week 15 of the 2025 season. So 83% of the season had already passed at that point. The 49ers legally, by what the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, says, can go after 17% of Brandon Aiyuk's pay from the 2025 season, since they formally documented that he left the team with 17% of the season left to go. And they can also go after a prorated portion of Brandon Aiyuk's signing bonus that includes the prorations from 2026, 2027, and 2028, assuming that he doesn't show up. He says he doesn't plan to show up, and 17% of the 2025 signing bonus since he left early. All of that adds up to $18.6 million that the 49ers can theoretically recoup from Brandon Aiyuk. Remember, they paid him over $48 million over the course of this new contract. They paid him about 10 to 12 million, I think, on his rookie contract. So total career earnings for Brandon Aiyuk from the 49ers at about $60 million. Now, it's really hard to just take money out of a bank account that you've already paid it to. But one potential enforcement mechanism for the 49ers would be to grab money from Brandon Aiyuk's future paychecks. But if he doesn't plan on applying for reinstatement, then he's never going to play again. And even if he does play again, it really appears that the 49ers would be in line to grab the money that would normally go to Brandon Aiyuk and just take it for themselves. Basically, he'd be playing for the 49ers even if he wasn't on the 49ers for the rest of his career, because it's really hard to see Brandon Aiyuk at this point making anything close to $18 million. I say all this to illustrate that there may not even be incentive for Brandon Aiyuk to head back out onto the field because he has screwed this up so badly. Now, say that his knee and his health is in a place where he knows that he's done. Well, that allows us to draw a much more rational explanation for his behavior. And it's still irrational behavior, but the only way that any of this makes sense is that if Brandon Aiyuk is indeed resigned to the fact that his career is done, and now he's trying to blame everyone but himself on the way out. Actions speak louder than words. That's how I'm reading the actions. And until Brandon Aiyuk does something to show that his trajectory is aimed in a different direction, I think that's the best way to intelligently analyze and parse this situation.